Now with the restorative poses, I want us to really honor that idea of making space to move into that space. And when we do, there shouldn't be a feeling of crowding or pinchiness or anything like that in the pose. So we're going to start with reclined tree pose. So the block can either support the shin bone or the femur bone. Some of us might find we want both. Some of you might be surprised that the shin bone supporting it works better than supporting the thigh bone. So kind of find a position, but know that when you lay down, that propping may need to change. And we can prop that standing leg as well. Okay, so once you come in, it feels like, okay, you're not running into yourself. There's no pinchiness. Feels like you've got space. And let's focus not on a deep breath here, but again on just slowing our inhale down. Slowing our exhale down. Okay, and then you're going to take that leg that is out in tree, turn that knee to the ceiling, bring that foot to the floor, stretch out both legs long for a second. Just take a couple of breaths there, noticing the left and the right side. And then we'll transition in on the other side when you're ready. And know that the other side might have different propping requirements. So whereas the first side maybe liked the shin, the second side might like the thigh more, vice versa. And the blocks work really good too if you can get them angled and kind of wedged between the weight of your leg and the sticky mat. Sometimes trying to balance the leg on a flat brick doesn't feel quite as good as if we can get a bit of a tilt into the block. Again, finding a propping where it doesn't feel like there's any running into yourself in the hip or the knee. And once you arrive there, just slowing down our inhale and exhales. With the next exhale, we'll yaw that treed leg towards the midline. Slide it out. Just take a couple of breaths there. And then we're going to transition onto our side. So make your way onto a side. And we're going to position the blocks underneath the bottom leg. So I find that my shins need to be higher than what my thighs are. So I keep my thighs on a lower level and my shins on a higher level. Okay. And then from here, we're going to take the top arm onto the bottom ribs and the bottom arm to kind of leverage us. And we're just going to wiggle and waggle our way to turning the torso with the legs supported. And I could take my bottom arm and bring it as weight on that top leg. But again, a lower block under the thigh and then a higher block under the ankle, lower shin. Usually works pretty good and allows us to get the shoulders and the back of some of the ribs to the floor here. We could also let that top leg go wherever it needs to let more of our rib cage come to the floor, and then we could start letting it get heavy onto that bottom leg. So just kind of play a little bit. But we don't want to be feeling anything in the low back or pulling around the top of the pelvis bones. And we'll just slow the breath down here again. Couple more slow inhales and exhales. And then you could take an arm on the floor, roll yourself back onto the side where the blocks are. Slip them just out of the way and roll onto your back for a second. Knees can stay bent or you can extend the legs out. But just give yourself a moment to transition, and then we'll set that twist up on the other side. So again, I find it works well to stagger the heights of the blocks. And know that you could explore, maybe you want those blocks in between the legs instead of under both legs. don't be afraid to try it out if the way I guided you in last time didn't quite get you in the place where you needed to be. So we've got a lower block above the knee and a higher block down near the ankle foot. We'll come on to our side and then start to turn away from those blocks. Let the top leg go where it needs to go to get your shoulders to the floor. And then you could play with, as you're breathing, letting that weight of that leg and gravity just do its thing. Maybe with each exhale, you feel where there's a arch, maybe in the back, and let me see if we can let that settle out so it becomes more of a yaw of the spine rather than an arch. Focusing on seeing if you can slow that breath down, so much so that it doesn't ruffle the hairs on the inside of the nostrils. Couple of 3 more breaths here.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Florence. And with your third exhalation, roll yourself back onto that side where the blocks are. We'll scoot them just to the side. Come onto your back. Knees can stay bent, or we can stretch the legs out long. Just take a second here before we move to our third restorative posture. So if the legs are long, you'll bring them back so the feet are on the floor. And we're going to take our first block and lift our hips, and we're just going to place the block under the hips at the height that we lifted the hips. So I've got mine on the lowest setting. You might be higher. And then from there, we're going to reach the arms out long. And like me, I've got a long torso, and my arms easily, my fingers easily come around that block. If that's the case for you too, you're going to take your other block and place it down there as well, so that you really have to kind of reach to get your fingertips to that block. And we're going to take the legs up to the ceiling. So that might be that the second block is on a higher level because it's not under the hips. We're just using it to create that reach that we pull in that block. So this kind of rolls the shoulders under a little bit. And you can stay with the legs up in the air, like a legs up the wall, or you can bend the legs and bring the feet back to the floor in more of a Seto-Bandhasana. So you decide. Some of us are going to like the pressure that legs up puts on the sacrum and the back of the pelvis. Some of us are going to be happier with the with the feet on the ground in more of a bridge, supported bridge pose. So see, with that slow, soft quality of the inhale and exhale, we can now start to lengthen it as well. If your legs are in the air, you're going to bring your feet to the ground. Take a couple of breaths, and then we're going to lift the hips just enough to be able to slide the block out from underneath. And then our final posture is going to have us take our one block in its thinnest setting and rest the block basically on the pubis, on the front of the pelvis. And then we'll take the second block and turn it on its side, and it'll rest wider towards the knees. And then we're going to toe heel out the feet so that the feet are wider than the knees and the thigh bones rest on those blocks. So we've got a narrower one right up by the pelvis and a wider block set closer to the knees. Hands could rest on the front of the hip bones, front bottom ribs, or out at your side. As we're breathing here, that slow, soft, long breath, I want you to focus the inhale on really sensing the midline, and the exhale, a sense of moving out to the periphery. Inhaling, gathering, a thickening and awareness of that midline, and then an exhale, a diffusing out to our periphery edges. And you're welcome to stay in constructive rest for as long as you want to. If you're ready now, you'll start to transition to your final posture of today's practice, Shavasana. So toe heel in the feet. Stretch the legs out long. if you didn't slip socks on or a blanket kind of nearby to cover the feet. If you want to get a little bit warmer, we're going to be here for about 10 minutes. And if being on your back isn't where you want to be today for Shavasana 2, know that you can also set up on your side. On Thursday, I will set up on a prone or belly down Shavasana. You can stay with that breath awareness of sensing the midline, almost as if we were a stick drawing. As we inhale, that midline gets a little darker, bolder, heavier. And as we exhale, a sense of that midline diffusing, and our attention moves out to our peripheral edges. You might find that on that diffusing out to the peripheral edges, that the attention wants to keep diffusing and softening, widening and expanding. And you're welcome to have your attention do that. All the while practicing being the observer. So noticing when the attention stays with a particular sensation or thought, a train of consciousness. You don't have to change it or bring it back, but just notice what occurs simply by you practicing the skill of noticing what you notice with the attention.
With your next exhalation, you're going to count down from 5 to 0. And once you get to 0, just noticing the attention has moved back into the room you're in, the sound of my voice, the sensations of the body resting on the ground. And you can start to bring movement back. It could be by wiggling fingers and toes, stretching out long, full body yawns. Make your way onto a side and give yourself a chance just to linger there for a few breaths. And as you feel ready, you'll transition from laying on your side, using the arm and the hand to press up to a seated position.
Let's let the head be the last thing to come on top of the legs and the pelvis. Finding a seat, hands can rest in the lap, or we could bring the palms together, thumbs just beside the breastbone. Gaze could be down on the fingertips. Breathing in with ease and out with okayness. Om Shanti Shanti Peace.